The chandeliers above the Four Seasons ballroom cast a warm golden glow over 300 guests in their finest evening wear. Crystal glasses clinked, laughter echoed off the marble walls, and somewhere in the back, a string quartet played Pachelbel's canon. My sister Sarah stood in the center of it all in her custom Vera Wang gown, radiant and perfect. Her hand intertwined with Mike's as they swayed to the music. I stood in the DJ booth, my fingers wrapped around a small USB drive that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. In exactly 4 minutes, the DJ would play the special surprise video I'd created, a gift for the bride, he'd announce. Sarah had no idea what was coming. Neither did Mike. Neither did the 300 guests currently sipping champagne and celebrating what they thought was true love. My hands trembled as I inserted the drive into the laptop. The DJ gave me a thumbs up. Sarah caught my eye across the room and smiled. That same smile I'd trusted my entire life. The same smile she wore when she told me hiring David as her wedding photographer was a sweet way to keep it in the family. The same smile she wore when she hugged me 3 days ago and said, "I'm so lucky to have you as my maid of honor, Em. You're the best sister anyone could ask for." 4 minutes. That's all the time left before everything changed. Let me tell you how I got here. 6 weeks earlier, I stood in Sarah's Pacific Heights apartment, surrounded by fabric swatches and flower samples. Wedding planning had consumed her life for the past 8 months, and as her maid of honor, it had consumed mine too. What do you think, the blush roses or the ivory? Sarah held up 2 bouquets, her dark hair falling over her shoulders in perfect waves. At 31, my sister had always been beautiful in that effortless way some women are. I'd spent my childhood in her shadow, the younger sister who tried too hard. "Blush," I said, marking it down in the planning binder. "They'll photograph better." Sarah smiled. "See, this is why I need you." David would know this stuff too, obviously, but I didn't want to bother him with details. David. My husband. The mention of his name still made my heart skip a beat even after 5 years of marriage. We'd met at a gallery opening when I was 29. He was the photographer, I was there reviewing the artwork for a design blog. He'd approached me first, camera around his neck, and asked if he could photograph my hands. "They're expressive," he'd said. 3 months later, we were engaged. "He's excited about the wedding," I said, moving on to the next checklist item. He was asking me last night about the schedule. "What time does the ceremony start again?" 4 o'clock. "Tell him I need him there by 2 for prep shots." Sarah's phone buzzed and she glanced at it, a small smile playing at her lips before she tucked it away. "Mike's family is already driving me crazy with their opinions. His mother wanted us to serve prime rib at a June wedding in California." I laughed. But something about her expression when she looked at that phone nagged at me. Just a flutter in my gut. There and gone. "You okay?" I asked. "You seem stressed." "I'm fine." She squeezed my hand. "Just ready for this to be over so we can get back to normal, you know? I miss our sister dinners. We'd been doing dinner every Tuesday night since I moved to San Francisco 6 years ago, until the wedding planning took over. I missed it too. I missed a lot of things lately. David had been working constantly. Wedding season was his busiest time. We'd been trying for a baby for 2 years, 3 rounds of IVF, all unsuccessful. The last one had failed just 2 months ago. I hadn't told Sarah. She had enough on her plate. After the wedding, I agreed. Everything goes back to normal. The following Tuesday, I stopped by Sarah's apartment to drop off the finalized seating chart. She wasn't home, but she'd texted me the door code and told me to leave it on her desk. Her apartment always smelled like expensive candles. Today, it was something vanilla and amber. I found the desk easily, placed the envelope down, and was turning to leave when I noticed her laptop sitting open on the coffee table. The screen was dark but not off, just sleeping. I shouldn't have touched it. I know that. But we'd been sharing devices since we were kids. She'd never cared before. And I needed to check my email. My phone had died on the drive over. I tapped the trackpad. The screen illuminated, and my world tilted sideways. A folder was open. The tab at the top read, "Private, do not share." Inside were photos. Dozens of them. The first was from a fitting room. Sarah in a white silk robe, David's arms around her waist from behind. His face was turned toward her neck. The timestamp, March 15th. 3 months ago, right after my last IVF attempt had failed. My hand went to my mouth. I clicked the next photo. Same location, different angle. Sarah's hand on his chest. His lips on her forehead. The intimacy of it made me physically sick. Click. Another photo. A hotel room this time. Sheets tangled. Sarah's bare shoulder. David's watch, the one I'd given him for our anniversary, visible on the nightstand. Timestamp. April 2nd. The weekend he'd told me he was photographing a wedding in Napa. Click. 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 Each photo was a knife to the chest. Some were from what looked like her engagement shoot, the one David had offered to do for free as a gift. Others were from random afternoons. Coffee shops. His studio. Her apartment. My hands, those expressive hands he'd once loved, were shaking so hard I could barely control the trackpad. There was a text file in the folder too. I opened it. Timeline, keep track. January 12. Hired D for engagement photos. First time alone together. January 28. Coffee after viewing photos. Talked for 3 hours. Felt something. February 14. He texted me Happy Valentine's Day before Emma. Made me feel special. March 1. First kiss. In his studio. I initiated it. March 15. First time sleeping together. Hotel in Soma. He said Emma doesn't understand his art anymore. April 2 to 3. Napa weekend. He told Emma it was work. We barely left the room. May 10. Positive pregnancy test. It's his. Due January. May 15. Told him about baby. He cried. Says he loves me but doesn't know how to leave Emma. June 1. Mike proposed. Said yes. D upset but understands we need cover story. Plan. Marry Mike. Wait 6 months. Divorce. Then D and I can be together. Baby will be born by then. I read it 3 times. My sister was pregnant. With my husband's baby. And she was marrying Mike, sweet, genuine Mike, who worked in tech and coached Little League on weekends as a cover story. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the coffee table. Trying to breathe. Trying to make sense of what I was reading. 8 months. They'd been doing this for 8 months. While I was planning her wedding. While I was going through IVF. While I was failing to give David the baby he wanted. And she was giving him one instead. A sound escaped my throat, something between a laugh and a sob. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from David. Running late tonight, babe. Client meeting. Love you. Love you. I looked back at the screen. At the timeline. At the photos. At my entire life revealed as a lie. And then I did something I'm still not sure was brave or stupid. I took out my phone and photographed everything. Every photo. Every line of that timeline. Then I carefully closed the laptop, left it exactly as I'd found it, and walked out of Sarah's apartment. I didn't cry. Not yet. First, I needed to think. I drove to Ocean Beach and sat in my car, watching the waves crash against the shore. The fog was rolling in, thick and gray, swallowing everything. I felt like I was being swallowed too. My first instinct was to call David. To scream at him. To demand answers. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the coldness that had settled in my chest, or maybe it was the part of my brain that was still functioning logically, despite the shock. If I confronted him now, he'd deny it. They'd both deny it. And I'd be painted as the crazy, paranoid wife. No. I needed more than photos on Sarah's laptop. I needed irrefutable proof. Over the next 3 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. I checked David's phone when he was in the shower. I found the texts, hundreds of them, exchanges that made my stomach turn. I can't wait to wake up next to you every day, he'd written to her. Emma's sweet, but you make me feel alive. I hired a private investigator, a woman named Rosa who had kind eyes and didn't ask questions. She followed them for 2 weeks and came back with more photos. David leaving Sarah's apartment at 11 p.m. on Tuesday, our sister dinner night, that I thought Sarah was too busy for. Sarah leaving David's studio on Thursday afternoon, her hair messed up, lipstick smudged. Rosa also found the medical records. Sarah was indeed pregnant, due January 15th. The conception date lined up perfectly with that Napa weekend. I documented everything. Every text. Every photo. Every timeline entry. Every lie David had told me about where he was going. I built a case like I was preparing for trial, and in a way, I was. The third week. I visited my father. Dad still lived in our childhood home in Marin, a craftsman-style house with a garden he'd spent 30 years cultivating. He was on his knees pulling weeds when I arrived, his gray hair tucked under a giant's cap. Emma. He stood, wiping his hands on his jeans. Didn't expect you today. Everything okay? I'd practiced this conversation in my head a dozen times, but seeing his weathered face so full of love and trust made the words stick in my throat. Dad, I need to tell you something. And I need you to just listen until I'm done, okay? His smile faded. He knew my tone. He'd heard it before when Mom died 6 years ago, when my IVF failed, when life got hard. He gestured to the porch swing and we Saturday. I told him everything. He didn't interrupt. Didn't speak. Just listened as I laid out the evidence. The photos, the timeline, the pregnancy. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the garden Mom had loved. Sarah, he finally said, his voice rough. Your mother's Sarah. Mom had named her after her own sister. They'd been close once, before Aunt Sarah had an affair with Mom's first boyfriend. Mom had forgiven her eventually, but they never quite recovered. I'd never made the connection until now. What are you going to do? Dad asked. I'm going to let her have her perfect wedding, I said quietly. And then I'm going to tell everyone exactly who they're celebrating. Dad turned to look at me. I know what you're going to say. Take the high road. Don't stoop to their level. Keep it private. I met his eyes. But Dad, they've been lying to me for 8 months. They were going to keep lying. Sarah was going to marry Mike under false pretenses, destroy his life too, all so she and David could. My voice cracked. So they could have the family I couldn't give him. Is that what you think? Dad's hand found mine. That this is about your IVF? Isn't it? No, sweetheart. This is about 2 selfish people who chose betrayal over integrity. This isn't your fault. Not any of it. I wanted to believe him. But late at night, when I lay next to David pretending to sleep, I couldn't help but wonder. If I'd gotten pregnant, would he still have wanted her? I need your help, I said to Dad. I'm going to create a video. For the reception. Sarah asked me to put together a tribute to her and Mike, photos from childhood, that sort of thing. But I'm going to add additional content. Dad was quiet again. Then, what do you need from me? Your blessing. And your presence. When everyone turns on me, and they will, at first I need someone to stand beside me. He squeezed my hand. I'm your father. I'll always stand beside you. But Emma, are you sure? There's no taking this back once it's done. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Creating the video took me 4 days. I worked on it late at night after David went to bed, headphones in, my heart hammering every time I added another photo to the timeline. The first half was exactly what Sarah had asked for. A sweet montage of childhood photos. Sarah learning to ride a bike. Sarah at her high school graduation. Sarah and Mike's engagement photo. All set to a gentle piano track. Then, at the 3-minute mark, the music shifted. A record scratch. The screen went black. White text appeared. But before we celebrate this union, there's something everyone should know. Then came the photos. Sarah and David in the fitting room. The hotel room. His studio. Each one labeled with a date. Each one irrefutable. Then the timeline. Sarah's own words, taken directly from that text file. Then the ultrasound photo, with a caption, Baby Chen. Due January 15th. Conceived April 2nd. The weekend David told his wife he was working in Napa. Then, screenshots of David's texts to Sarah. You make me feel alive. I'm in love with you. I can't wait to leave Emma. The video ended with a final black screen and white text. Congratulations, Sarah. You're finally marrying into the Chen family. Just not the way anyone expected. I watched it through once, twice, 10 times. Each viewing made my stomach hurt, but my resolve never wavered. They deserved this. Mike deserved to know. The 300 guests who'd be watching my sister marry a man she didn't love deserved to know the truth. The morning of the wedding, I woke up at 5 a.m. David was still asleep beside me, one arm thrown over his eyes. I studied his face in the dim light, the face I'd loved for 5 years. The face that had lied to me for 8 months. I got up quietly, took a shower, and put on the navy bridesmaid dress Sarah had chosen. It was beautiful, too beautiful, for what I was about to do. But that felt right somehow. Let them remember me looking good when their world fell apart. My phone buzzed. Sarah. Can't believe it's finally here. See you at the venue at noon? Love you sis.a. I typed back. Wouldn't miss it for the world. David stirred. Morning, beautiful. Big day. Big day. I agreed. He got up, kissed my forehead the same way he'd kissed Sarah's in those photos, and headed for the shower. I waited until I heard the water running, then checked my bag one more time. The USB drive was there, small and innocuous in the side pocket. My phone rang. Dad. You okay? He asked. No. But I'm doing it anyway. I'll be there. Front row. I love you, Emma. Love you too, Dad. The Four Seasons ballroom was transformed into something from a fairy tale. White roses everywhere, crystal chandeliers, silk draping. Sarah had spared no expense. The ceremony was flawless. Mike cried when he saw Sarah walking down the aisle. David photographed every moment, professional and focused, never once looking at me. I stood beside Sarah as she said her vows, the words like glass in my ears. To have and to hold. From this day forward, for better or worse. Better or worse. She had no idea how much worse it was about to get. The reception started at 7 p.m. Cocktail hour, then dinner, then dancing. I played my role perfectly. Smiled for photos. Gave a sweet, generic toast about sisterhood and happiness. Sarah squeezed my hand afterward, tears in her eyes. That was beautiful, Em. At 9 p.m., the DJ made an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, the maid of honor has prepared a special surprise video tribute to the bride and groom. Let's dim the lights and roll the footage. The screens around the ballroom flickered to life. I stood in the back, near the exit, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. Dad appeared beside me, his hand on my shoulder. The video started playing. For the first 3 minutes, everything was perfect. Guests smiled, some dabbed at tears. Sarah was glowing, her hand in Mike's. David stood off to the side, camera raised, documenting his own destruction. Then the music changed. The room went silent. The first photo appeared Sarah and David, wrapped around each other. I watched the moment realization hit. Mike's smile froze. Sarah's face went white. David lowered his camera slowly, his eyes finding mine across the crowded room. What the hell, someone near me muttered. The photos kept coming. Each one worse than the last. Gasps rippled through the ballroom. Mike stood up, his chair scraping loudly. Sarah grabbed his arm, but he shook her off, his eyes locked on the screen. Then came the timeline. Sarah's words, her plan, spelled out for 300 people to read. Oh my God, someone said loudly. Is that the baby? Someone else whispered. The ultrasound. Mike turned to Sarah. Even from the back of the room, I could see his face. The betrayal. The shock. The horror. Sarah started, reaching for him. Don't. His voice cut through the murmurs like a knife. Don't touch me. Sarah's mother stood up, her face ashen. Sarah Marie, what is this? The video ended. The final message appeared. Congratulations, Sarah. You're finally marrying into the Chen family. Just not the way anyone expected. The lights came back up. Silence. 300 people staring at Sarah, at Mike, at David. Then all at once, chaos erupted. Voices overlapping, people standing, chairs scraping. Mike ripped off his boutonniere and threw it on the table. "We're done. The marriage is done. It's annulled. I want you out of my apartment by Monday. Mike, please." Sarah was crying now, mascara running down her face. "Let me explain." "Explain what?" "That you've been sleeping with your sister's husband? That you're pregnant with his baby? That you were using me as a cover story?" He laughed. Harsh and broken. "I loved you. I would have given you everything. And this whole time." He couldn't finish. He just turned and walked out, his groomsmen scrambling to follow. Sarah spun toward me. Our eyes met across the ballroom. "You," she hissed. "You did this." Every head in the room turned to look at me. I felt the weight of 300 stares, 300 judgments. Part of me wanted to run. Part of me wanted to disappear. But I'd come this far. I walked forward, stopping a few feet from where Sarah stood. She looked smaller somehow, diminished without Mike beside her. "Yes," I said clearly. "I did this. How could you?" Her voice was ragged. "I'm your sister. And David is my husband. You're carrying my husband's baby." My voice didn't shake. That surprised me. "You were going to marry Mike under false pretenses. You were going to destroy his life along with mine. I just made sure he knew the truth before he legally bound himself to a lie." Sarah's father, my father, approached us. His face was hard, disappointed in a way I'd never seen before. But he wasn't looking at me. "Sarah," he said quietly. "How could you do this to your sister?" "Dad," Sarah's voice broke. "You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You betrayed Emma in the worst way possible. And you would have betrayed Mike too." He looked at the assembled guests, most of whom were still staring in shocked silence. "We're done here. The wedding is over. Thank you all for coming." David finally approached, his camera hanging uselessly around his neck. "Emma, don't." I held up a hand. "Don't say anything. I'll have divorce papers filed by Wednesday. I want you out of the house tonight. You can't just." "I can. And I am." I looked at Sarah one more time. "You wanted my life? You can have David. But you can't have my dignity. That's mine." I turned and walked out of the Four Seasons, Dad beside me. Behind us, the ballroom erupted in voices again, accusations, recriminations, the sound of a family imploding. We didn't look back. 6 months later, I stood in my new apartment in Portland, boxes still half unpacked, morning light streaming through windows that overlooked the Willamette River. My phone buzzed. A message from a number I didn't recognize. "Emma, it's Sarah. I know you probably won't read this, but I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but it's true. The baby was born last week, a girl. David and I tried to make it work after everything, but we couldn't. He's back in SF, I'm in Marin with Dad. Mike's engaged to someone else. I destroyed everything for nothing. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that you were right. I was selfish and cruel, and I'm sorry." I read it twice. Felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, no pain. Just emptiness where my sister used to be. I didn't reply. Instead, I deleted the message and put my phone away. There was a knock at my door. Rosa, the PI who'd helped me gather evidence, stood there with coffee and pastries. We'd become unlikely friends over the past few months. She'd helped me move to Portland, helped me find this apartment, helped me start rebuilding. "Morning," she said, handing me a cup. "How are you feeling?" "Okay," I said, and meant it. "Different. But okay." "You know," Rosa said, settling onto my couch, "I've been doing this job for 15 years. I've seen every kind of betrayal you can imagine. But I've never seen anyone handle it the way you did." "You mean the public humiliation thing?" "I mean the standing up for yourself thing." She sipped her coffee. "Most people in your situation would have suffered in silence. Let the betrayal eat them alive. Blamed themselves. But you chose truth over comfort. Dignity over destruction. That takes real courage. It didn't feel courageous, I admitted. It felt necessary. That's what courage is. Doing the necessary thing even when it costs you everything. I thought about that. About what it had cost me. My sister. My marriage. My home. My entire life in San Francisco. But also what I'd gained. My self-respect. My truth. My freedom. I started a support group, I told Rosa. For people dealing with family betrayal. First meeting is next week. 4 people signed up. Rosa smiled. Look at you. Turning pain into purpose. Someone told me once that the best revenge is living well. I'm trying to do that. Later, after Rosa left, I stood at my window watching Portland wake up. Somewhere in San Francisco, Sarah was dealing with the consequences of her choices. David was probably taking wedding photos for someone else's happy day. Mike was building a new life with someone who deserved him. And I was here. Starting over. Choosing myself. My phone buzzed again. This time, Dad. Proud of you, sweetheart. Lunch this weekend? I smiled and typed back. Absolutely. Love you. The sun climbed higher in the sky. A new day. A new chapter. A new life built on truth instead of lies. I'd been asked at that support group sign-up if I believed in forgiveness. It was a hard question. Did I forgive Sarah? Did I forgive David? The honest answer was no. Maybe someday, but not today. And I was okay with that. Forgiveness wasn't a requirement for healing. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is walk away and never look back. Sometimes the greatest act of strength isn't staying. It's leaving. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's liberation. I finished my coffee, put on my running shoes, and headed out into the Portland morning. The air smelled like rain and possibility. Behind me, my old life was ashes. Ahead of me, everything was unwritten. And for the first time in 8 months, I felt like I could breathe.